What's up, our squad? Hey, glad that you're back here with us again. Here's what we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks, and it's this idea that helps protect you and me, to help protect you so that you have fewer regrets and you're making better decisions. So, the thing that we're going to be talking about is guardrails. That's right, guardrails. Now, everyone knows what a guardrail is. Whenever you're riding down the road or you're driving in a car, a guardrail is the thing that keeps your car, your vehicle, from going off to a place that could be very dangerous for it. As a matter of fact, the guardrail is there to protect us. Well, sometimes.
It's gonna be...
Now, unless you're that kid, the purpose of the guardrail is to keep you out of the danger zone, to keep you in a place where you're protected and you're safe. Now, we usually see guardrails where? Like on bridges, of course, right? We see a guardrail on bridges, on the sides to keep your car from going in the water, and medians, especially down high-speed highways to keep cars from crashing on the edges of mountain roads or mountain passes. Why? Because, well, nobody wants to end up rolling down a cliff. No fun for anybody. The reality is, no one really pays attention to guardrails. They're kind of the invisible part of driving, if you will. The theory behind a guardrail is that you'll do less damage to your body and to your car by hitting the guardrail rather than what's going on after it. You can recover from hitting a guardrail. Now, the reason we're going to talk about this over the next several weeks is because in your life, your greatest regret relationally, your greatest regret emotionally, the greatest regrets that you have in life probably could have been avoided. And they could have been avoided if you and I had established some guardrails in our life to help keep us from experiencing those things. So a guardrail in your life is that personal standard of behavior that you're committed to. The reality is, in the world that we live in, they don't like this idea. They don't like the idea of putting things in your life to protect yourself so that you can make better choices, so that you live with fewer regrets. The idea that most of culture wants to tell you is that you only live once, do whatever you want, you're only a teenager at one time. But the reality is so far from that. Because what happens today will impact your tomorrow. One of the interesting things that I've always struggled with is that culture and the world around us will oftentimes say that they understand and they know what's on the other side of the guardrail, right? They understand the big, catastrophic, yeah, those things are wrong, right? So when somebody that we love or we care about dies of a drug overdose, right? Everybody agrees in the world that drugs are wrong and that drugs are bad, and that shouldn't be that should be something we shouldn't have any part of. But then it seems like in the same conversation, the world will say, oh, well, you know, smoking a little weed's not that big a deal. Well, the question is that really a guardrail? Or is that just the thin yellow line that separates traffic as you go down a curvy road? What I want to do and what I want to help you to do is elevate your standard of living so that you live a life that is fuller, so that you live a life where you're not passing the guardrail. You may bump up against it, but that's a whole lot easier to recover from than going over it. We're going to start in Ephesians chapter 5. Now, the book of Ephesians is once again written by Paul. We've talked about Paul throughout the last several months. When Paul's writing to the people of Ephesus, he's writing to a town that is straight cray. It has got it backwards all day long. And they were struggling because they had no guardrail set up in their life. Like, here's an example. We all realize and recognize in our culture today that cheating on your spouse is not good. It's wrong, period. Right? Now, in this time in Ephesus, cheating on your spouse was no big deal. As a matter of fact, people would even do it in the churches, in the religious places. So everything was turned all upside down. So in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15, Paul tells the people this, and he's telling you and I this. He says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Now, when we look at that word, be very careful then how you live, and we take that word live and we pull it out, the way that you can translate that down is to be careful then how you walk. In other words, in the steps that you take in your life each and every day, don't take those steps carelessly or unwise, but be careful. Keep an eye out. Watch where your feet are going so that you don't trip up, so that you don't find yourself in a place that you don't want to be. A way to think about it would be like this. If you come to my house and you say, hey, Joey, man, I'm going to go out in your backyard. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you, be careful because I have a dog. And if you walk out there and you're not looking where you're stepping, guess what you're going to get? Doo-doo shoes. That's right. You heard me. I said doo-doo shoes. So Paul tells you and I in verse 15, don't walk around and get doo-doo shoes. And then verse 16, he says this, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Now we hear that verse and we hear that word and like, hey, what do you mean because the days are evil? And what Paul was trying to help his people understand that there was truly some evil, messed up, jacked up stuff going on in the world around them. We have some of that same stuff too. But the bigger picture here is Paul was saying, listen, as you're walking, you need to understand that there's a current in your world and in your culture. And if you just decide to lean back and pick your feet up and float wherever culture takes you, then you're going to end up in a place that you never wanted to be. The easy thing here is to say, you know what? God just doesn't want me to have any fun. God doesn't want me to have a great life. God just wants me to live by a list of rules. But the truth is that God wants what is best for your life. And God's picture of your life is bigger and greater than you can ever imagine your own life being. Now, next week, we're going to dive into this a little bit deeper. And we're going to talk about the idea of how you and I like to live and toe that line of, am I actually over the guardrail or am I sitting on it? So this week, as you break up into your small groups, you're going to be looking at this passage from Ephesians chapter 5. And you're going to start talking about and thinking through, what are some of the guardrails that I have in my life? What are some of the guardrails that I should establish in my life?